The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thanks very much for joining us for the latest in our HPM Lunch and Learn webinar series. My name is Donald O'Neill and I'm the marketing manager for Con William Health, and with me today I have Ronan Leonard, who is our support team leader for HPM.
How's it
And
going?
how are you, Ronan? And basically what we're going to do today is Ronan's just going to run through some of the newest functionality in the system, sort of how to use it, how to get the most from it. We'll take time for questions at the end. If you have any, what I would say to you is if you look in the control panel of the GoToWebinar software, there's a little tab that says questions there. Click the arrow, type in your questions. They all come to me and I'll sort of ask Ronan them at the end. But yeah, look, please feel free to ask us anything that you want to do. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the controls over to Ronan so he can start sharing his screen. And that should be winging its way to you now, Ronan.
Okay. You see my screen now?
Yeah, I can indeed, yeah.
Perfect. All right, thanks, Donald. Okay, so we're just going to go through some of the new features that have been added to the software kind of in the very last release or two. Our latest HPM version is 3.6.1.4. So if you can check what version you're on, I'll show you where to do it here. If you just go to Help and then About, it'll actually tell you what version you're on there. If you're not on the latest version, by all means, give us a call. It could be a case that our live updater is blocked maybe by our firewall, or we might need to upgrade you manually, but it's something we can certainly sort out on the desk. It's important that you're on the latest version of the software, just so you can avail of all the latest features, you know. So what we're going to just go through today, we're going to go through a new feature around latest release notes that goes to a website now. We're going to go through some additions to the cycle of care section that will help you out a bit. There's a new feature as well, radiology ordering, that we're going to go through. And we're going to go through various other things around the video referrals, the HL7 test, password complexity, and attach an image to general referrals that we might have covered in the last webinar, but just to run through them again. So firstly, what we're going to go through is the improvement in the latest release notes section. So normally, Donald, what used to happen here when you clicked on latest release notes, it would just open a PDF document that was actually shipped with the product. Now, the problem with that is that obviously it never updated because it was actually on the end user's machine as opposed to being on a website. So we've changed that now, where when we click on latest release notes, it actually opens a website. And the good thing about this is that these notes are obviously constantly updated. And even if you're not on the latest version, you'll be able to see what's in the latest version before you even get it.
Very good.
Because the links will all be here. So that's been added there. So that's just a very, very short change that we added. The next thing we're going to just go through is the improvements to the cycle of care visit section within a patient's chart. Now, I'm not going to go through the cycle of care too deep. We have a dedicated webinar for that one, which we can give the link to anyone that wants it. I just said I'd show this because I think this is a really good change to the cycle of care, because this was one area that was a bit of a challenge, I think, for everyone concerned. So I'm going to go in and show it in a patient's chart now. So I'll go into this diabetes patient. It's just a test patient. And we'll go into the protocols and cycle of care and diabetes as normal. Now I've added a visit today, and it's obviously a follow-up visit. Now what you're going to notice, Donald, straight away is that these little icons here, these little magnifying glasses, these were not here in the previous release.
Okay.
Basically, there was no option here other than it would just populate information or not. And how it populated information is when the lab actually came in from HL7 tests, in administration HL7 tests, it had to be matched correctly. And the problem was you can have sort of different labs will give an exam and even a test a slightly different name than is explicitly looked for here, and it would mean that the test would come back and it would be in the exam section, but it wouldn't be showing up here. And then you'd have to call the desk and we'd have to remap it for you, and it was a little bit cumbersome. So we were always able to get it fixed, but it just meant sometimes the end user might have had to hand type values in here when they might not necessarily have needed to. Okay. So what we've done here is basically you can actually map an item on kind of on the fly. So if I pick, say, I'm going to pick ACR, for example. So I click on the magnifying glass. Now I know that there's an ACR in this patient's chart but it might not be called ACR. It might be slightly different. So
Okay.
you get this little window up, and if you put in percentage ACR percentage and hit search, you get this pop up. Now you can see that it's called renal function ACR, slight misspelling there, but it's called renal function ACR. So I can highlight this and now click OK. And then this is great as well. So you only ever have to do it once. You'll get this pop up. Would you like to remember this selection for next time? So that means the next time you add a visit to a patient's cycle of care, it would automatically keep this mapping if that's what your ACR is called in your system.
Sure.
Okay. So if I click on yes,
go
ahead, sorry.
And it adds it in. And would it be the same then, say, if you were looking for something to do with cholesterol and if you did the percentage sign either side?
Exactly. Anyone with a magnifying glass is mappable, if you know what I mean.
Okay. And I suppose the key tip there is to have the percentage sign before, percentage sign after, and then search.
Yeah. I would always put it on both sides because you're never sure. You saw in the example of ACR, you could have something before it, you could have something after it. So I'd always put the wildcard either side, just to make sure it's mapped correctly.
Okay.
So the other side of the coin here is that, say if somebody maps this. Now I know I'm not too sure. I'm not too au fait with the medical situation, but I know that there can be some labs which are very, very similar, but they're actually not the same thing. So you could have mapped it. Somebody in the surgery could have performed the mapping here, but mapped it incorrectly. So sort of the second half of this feature is, if I click on this magnifying glass again, and if I search by name, or no, by list, leave it at by list. If I click on the configure button here, you'll see that there's two system mappings, which is okay. But then there's one mapping here that's been mapped by ID and defined by the user. The key here is defined by the user. So if that's incorrect, you just have to delete it.
Okay.
And click OK. And what will happen is the next time nothing will populate again, and you'll go in and click your magnifying glass to map.
I'd start from scratch then, okay.
Start from scratch. Yeah. So let me just make sure I have everything covered, matched it correctly. Yeah, that's fine. So as I said, it's just something that normally users, if they weren't mapped correctly, they would have to hand type. It's just to try and save as much hand typing as possible. We know that depending on the practice and depending on where they're getting the labs from, the tests and exams can have slightly different names. We can't account for all them in the package, because we just have no way of knowing. So this is kind of just a way to try and help end users as much as possible, just save them having to hand type stuff. So it's pretty good. So that's that. So the next thing we're going to just go through is a new feature in the system. It's called Radiology Ordering. So again, I'm going to just, bear with me one sec, I'll just minimize this so I can get in. I'll just close this patient's chart and I'll open another one. So it's a new feature. And what it is it's for medical card patients currently, and it's so that they can submit radiology orders to Aphidia. Okay. So if I click on documents, and you have electronic referral here, it's directly under that, it's electronic order. Okay. And there's a couple here already that I've added that were just for testing purposes. But if I click on add here, and you have there's no option selected here. As I said, it is for medical card patients only, but you have to select the private option here to get the hospitals to appear. These are the centers that actually work. So we click on Aphidia Dundrum. You'll always get this pop-up. What this means is that there's been no match found on the HealthLink side, just simply because the referral was never fully processed before for this patient, and it just gives it a default MRM. You'll always get that the first time you're sending a referral for patients you've never sent before. All right, so we select Aphidia Dundrum, we select Radiology Order, and then we click on Next. And once we click on Next, the key thing here is the medical council, or the medical card number has to be populated. But that will, if the patient has a medical card number, GMS number, it will come in here. But just to be aware that that has to be there. The first thing you put in your clinical details, including infection control, LMP, previous imaging, or whatever you want to type in here. I'll just type in. Okay. Once you put that in, then you select the kind of order you want to do. It could be ultrasound, abdomen, whatever you want. So we'll just select kidney, and then you click on review order, and then commit order. Hopefully this will send now. Okay, so that's been submitted. So you can see that this is the third one is shown up there in the patient's chart. So you know that that's actually been ordered. Now let me just see if I go back to the tasks then. If you go into the task section directly from here, go into the task section, you'll see that there's actually a button here, Radiology Request Tracker. Okay, so this is where the requests and responses come back for your radiology ordering, so you can check the status. You can check in the patient's chart as well in the screen we were just in. You don't necessarily have to go into the patient chart. You can check from this button here, Radiology Request Tracker. All right, both of these, there's two there now. Both of these, the status is awaiting acknowledgement. Obviously, because it's a test system, they haven't sent that back to me as yet, and they shouldn't, I suppose, because they shouldn't seen about it for test radiology. So
and if that was in a live system, the acknowledgement is pretty quick, isn't it?
Yeah, the acknowledgement comes back, but what happens is that the acknowledgement comes back when you download your bloods from HealthLink.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay, I get you. Yeah.
It comes back that way, and then that will all update here.
Okay, very good.
All right. So that's radiology ordering. Just to follow on from that, I wanted to show you. It's fairly, as I said, it's fairly straightforward radiology ordering. So hopefully there'll be good uptake on that. But while we're on that, I just wanted to show a video referral due to the changes with electronic ordering or radiology ordering. If you go into a video referral now, when it pops up, it brings in the GMS number by default now. It didn't do that before. So it was a feature that was changed just to account for that as well.
Very good.
Okay. So those are the main new features done. So I'm just going to go through a few of the features that were done in the last release just before Christmas. And just while we're on referrals, I'm going to just go to general referrals again. I just want to show, because this is a really good one, and there was a lot of requests, I think, for a long time for this to be added in. So if I click on documents and electronic referral, which is different to electronic order now, and if I select general referral, click on add, there's an option here, Donald, to actually attach images. Attach files from the patient's chart, which wasn't there before, and it's really handy. So again, I'm going to just select public, and it's just one example. Now, not all hospitals allow this. I'm just going to select one that I know does.
Okay.
So matter public, and again, that's that pop-up again we're getting. And we'll just select cardiology. And if I scroll down here, this option here changes depending on the hospital. This can actually read file attachments not allowed. Okay. It can read 3 file attachments allowed with kind of the size, or it can read other information. Depending on the hospital, they allow different things. So if I click on attach here, there's no documents there, but what that does is that actually opens the document section in the chart. It's not to attach files that are sitting on your desktop or anything like that. It will actually attach letters that are in the chart,
Okay.
They'll appear and you can just click on attach. So that's that.
And in terms of the hospitals themselves, Ronan, is it just a case that it's down to the hospital whether they accept it or not? Or
I think so. As I said, that section is completely driven by HealthLink.
Okay.
So like the list of hospitals is driven by HealthLink, that changes, and what they're allowed to do and not do is driven by HealthLink as well. So depending on the hospital, you can attach or not attach. Now there's probably, just be aware if anybody saw kind of different referrals here, then you would see on the live system, this is simply because I'm connected to a test HealthLink system. Obviously I can't be sending live referrals, so they would have various referrals there that they're testing out to see if they can work and stuff like that. So so that's that. I might just go through password complexity again. It's come up a bit, so I just wanted to run through that again, Donald, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We'll do 2 things. We go into administration What you do, you go into administration and users. Now, obviously, there's new password complexity has come in the last while, but it's important to note that it will only come in if you need to reset your password. We haven't said that you need to change your password here and now. It's only if you need to change your password. Obviously, you have to put in this new sort of scheme, and if you're creating a new user, they obviously have to put in this scheme as well.
Sure.
So what I'll do is I'll just click on add. I'll just add a new user, and we'll just call this user test, and we'll give them the role doctor test. And just, if I click OK, see the way it stops there. If I click on this, password must meet minimum complexity requirements. Now, if I click on my own user here and try and change it here, it's making a liar out of me now. This does actually pop up with the actual complexity. I was doing it yesterday.
Sure.
Let me see if I can get it 1 second now. So if I do this now. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
So the reason why there's two different pop-ups coming up is the first complexity requirement that was in a number of years ago was that it just had to be more than 4 characters.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's not more than 4 characters, you get the pop-up saying it's not meeting complexity requirements. If it is more than 4 characters, you will get the pop-up giving you more information about what is actually needed.
Okay.
So what's needed is a minimum of 12 characters, and it must contain at least 1 special case character. And I always advise putting it in uppercase as well, just to be safe.
And special case being basically anything that you have to hit shift on the keyboard to get, exclamation mark.
Yeah, so special case would be exclamation mark, $, percentage, anything like that. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So just to be aware that when you're resetting passwords, you might need to kind of, it's a good thing to have, because, I think we're all guilty of kind of having the same password for pretty much everything. So it's probably good to sort of just be more mindful of that,
Absolutely, yeah.
And while I'm here, Donald, again, I'm going to show something that does come up quite a bit. We might get a few calls to the desk where somebody is locked out of their account, and it can be just, they can totally remember their password, but it can be just caps lock was on twice and they forgot to take it off. And then the third time they might have just mistyped. They might not want to reset the password. Sometimes they call us and then we'd get dialed in and we'd sort it out for them. And that's obviously no problem. But if they're having problems getting through, it can take some time, but there's an easy way around it. If there's another user on site that actually has Helix Practice Manager open and has the access rights to administration and users, another user on site can actually help them. Do you know what I mean? Okay. They could actually go into administration and users, find the person that can't log in, click on edit, and what will happen is this will be ticked.
Okay.
So they just need to untick that and click OK, and then try again. But obviously call us. There's no problem calling us. It's just if they really need to get into the machine very quickly.
Very urgent. Yeah.
It might be worth asking. Is anybody here logged in? Can you unlock me?
Sure.
It's just something to try.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
It's definitely worth doing. And then the last thing I might just cover again, Donald, is very quickly the HL7 test section.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this would have been noticed quite a bit. There's been changes. Basically, what happened here over time is that this list, it keeps a list of every single time you ever downloaded bloods ever since you got HPM, and you can click on this and click on details, and it will give you all the details, the XMLs, the patient names, everything of any labs you ever downloaded. Now, obviously, over time, that screen took longer and longer to load because it was so long.
Okay.
And so we had quite a few requests to kind of try and get this to open up faster. So what we did was we can't remove anything there because it is important that you're always able to access that information easily,
Mm-hmm.
So what we did was by default, it will only show up, it will only load, now I'm going to refresh, it will only load unmatched only. So if you look here, we have labs came in, there's 2 in total, and there's 2 unmatched, okay? If I click on this and tick refresh, you'll see there's quite a few where they're all unmatched. So the system just decides that you don't need to see ones that are all matched already. You just might need to see ones that are unmatched so that you can actually match them.
Sure.
Okay. Now, if I tick this here and refresh, that won't save the change. It will. Some users will just want to see every lab, and that's absolutely fine. If you tick or untick this here and refresh, it will save it for that session. But when you go back in again, it will be back ticked unmatched only. But what you can do is you can actually go into administration, other settings, practice configuration. And if I go into practice settings, I'm looking for the tick box now. It's a new one. Force condition home screen. I'm trying to find it. It's either in machine config or practice configuration. Might actually be in machine configuration. Bear with me.
No worries.
It's definitely there, Donald. I think I'm going blind, but it's definitely there. There's a tick box there that actually, you know, it's a tick box for showing. It would say show only unmatched blood results.
I get you. So you can sort of customize it to what you want. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely there. That's gonna bug me now because
I'm furiously trying to see it as well, and I can't get it. But
I was only looking at it about 2 minutes before I start. Anyway, it's definitely there. It's a setting in practice configuration, and once that's you saw when if I close this and if I go back in, you can see that mine is unticked. So I have actually ticked that box. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, so it's definitely there. But it's a good feature. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to sort of give users the ability to do this without sort of taking away kind of anything from users who do prefer to see the full list, which is fine, you know. So that's kind of pretty much all I have. Let me just do a quick scan through latest release notes, cycle of care, radiology ordering, video referrals, HL7 test pass for complexity, and that's it. Yeah,
Great.
That's all I have anyway. Don't any questions at all? Or?
No questions as of yet. And look, if you do have a question, get it in now using the sort of questions panel. What I would say as well is earlier on, Ronan mentioned the cycle of care webinar that we did for HPM. You can find all of our webinars on YouTube, and literally all you do is log on to www.youtube.com and search for HPM Lunch and Learn, or even HPM webinars. We'll get you there, and you'll have a chance to listen to myself and Ronan show and talk through some more features of the system as well. And basically, look, they're there. You can watch them whenever you want. You can kind of do 5 minutes now, 5 minutes later, but they are helpful. We've had good feedback from people who have watched them, and they're really just designed to help you get the most out of your system that you possibly can. So look, what I would say is have a look through them. This webinar itself will be added to YouTube later on today. And again, if you have any future suggestions for things you'd like us to cover, or anything at all, just please do get in touch. We really are here to help, and we want to do as much to make things as easy as possible for you. So look, no questions as of yet, so I think we'll call it there and let people get to their sambos. Look,
that's fine. Me included.
A huge thanks to Ronan for running through everything.
No worries.
And look, we hope you found it helpful, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, Donald. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.